Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 111. Folks, so we got the news today that Ghislaine Maxwell had her emails hacked. And I had to chuckle to myself a bit because, well, it could be anybody who was hacking her, right? If she's running with the people that we think she's running with, people in the intelligence community, other rich people of means, obviously. Well, it could be any number of people looking to see what information she has squirreled away. And in my opinion, she has all the information squirreled away, folks. She holds the keys to the kingdom. And if they were to bring her in, and if they were to put her through the ringer and put her to the question, I have zero doubt in my mind that she would roll over in a flat second and start squealing like a stuck pig. She would talk quicker than Joe Valachi. She would be giving up everything. It would be like that Tekashi 69 guy talking about people that aren't even involved in this case. She'd be giving them up for other things. Because you know that a lady like this is all about self-preservation. You know she's not going down for anybody. So she has her treasure trove of information, I'm sure. And that information, we all know that information is the highest form of currency. So she is definitely ready to go. She's probably ready to go to the mattresses, and she's probably told these people in no uncertain terms that if she goes down, well, they're going down with her. And you see that a lot in these sort of organizations, right? And that's exactly what it is, folks. I'll call it what it is. It was a criminal organization that was engaging in an ongoing criminal conspiracy for decades. And that is exactly what they were involved in. And we all know there's no honor among thieves, and there's certainly no honor among these sort of animals either. So all it takes is for Ghislaine Maxwell to get rolled up, and the second she gets rolled up, I know she'll start talking. And who knows what she will say? Who knows who she has dirt on? I mean, you've seen the pictures. She's been pictured with everybody from Donald Trump to Bill Clinton to Hillary Clinton at Chelsea Clinton's wedding, with Prince Andrew. I mean, you name it. It's a who's who, getting invited to hang out with Jeff Bezos. It's just a who's who. And then people would try and say, oh, well, it was only Ghislaine Maxwell. It wasn't Jeffrey Epstein that we were hanging out with. One in the same, folks, okay? One is a woman, one is a man, but both are just equally as evil. All right? So that's not an excuse either. So let's hop into this article and let's hear about how Lady Ghislaine, the monster of England, had her emails hacked. And let's see what sort of information we can learn. The article is from the Miami Herald, and the headline is, Emails of Jeffrey Epstein Madam Ghislaine Maxwell were hacked, her lawyer says. So, first of all, to get things going, Madam? Yeah, we'll go with pedophile instead of Madam. The article was written by Ben Weider, and it was written on January 23rd at 7:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Washington. A lawyer for Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's socialite madam, and co-conspirator, and brains behind the operation, in my opinion, and, fellow pervert, said that Maxwell's private email server was hacked after her email address was inadvertently revealed in a cache of court documents unsealed last August by a New York federal court. Now, again, folks, we're talking about Ghislaine Maxwell here. I have to wonder if this is factual, or is this more, disinformation that she puts out there. It's one of those things where you have to be very careful when you're dealing with people who run in the circle she runs with, and people who engage in the sort of espionage she engages in. You have to be real careful what you believe and what you don't believe. So we'll read on a little bit more and we'll see what we come to. But like I said, I always keep it in the back of my mind reading these articles, especially about Maxwell, that there's, the best lies have a little bit of truth sprinkled in. And we all know that she's very good at that. She is very good at manipulating the situation. Those documents from a lawsuit filed by Virginia Roberts one of Epstein's victims, shone a light on Epstein's alleged trafficking of young women around the world and included the names of numerous high-powered businessmen and politicians who were part of his constellation of associates. Let's see the documents, folks, all right? And then after we're done with those, how about we see all of the documentation of people in Congress and Senate who use taxpayer funds to settle their suits as well for sexual assault, etc., etc. Because I have to tell you, folks, these are not just fellow travelers at this point, all right? There's too many coincidences that people are asking me to accept at this point, and I'm just not willing to do it. Sorry. Senior U.S. District Judge Loretta Preska is set to decide in the coming months on whether to release an even larger trove of documents, 8,600 pages, according to Maxwell's lawyer, Ty Gee. In a December letter first reported by The Telegraph, the lawyer reiterated Maxwell's concern that she be given a chance to review the documents for redactions before they are released. I don't even know why she should get that ability. I mean, you or I probably wouldn't get that chance, right? I highly doubt they'd be sending any documents to my lawyer or your lawyer. But if you're Ghislaine Maxwell, well, it's a whole different ballgame, right? We didn't get state funerals in our home countries or anything like that, folks. So we don't get that little extra leeway. Those additional documents could provide even more information about Epstein's trafficking scheme and Maxwell's connection to it, as well as the names of more prominent men who may have been party to or aware of his behavior. And that's important, right, folks? There's a distinction there, and we have to make sure we stay, we're aware of that distinction, all right? There was people who enabled this man, and there were people who engaged in the behavior with him. And both are reprehensible, but we have to make sure we don't, we stay on point here, and we make sure that we're, dropping the hammer on people for the right thing. So we all know that the enabling is just as bad, right? And we all know that these people that were enablers were also probably engaged in this criminal conspiracy as well, because they were all trading money around, et cetera, et cetera. So if the federal government looks to levy a case against these people, there is definitely a lot of smoke there. And when there's smoke, folks, we all know that there is fire. So too could Maxwell's emails if they were indeed accessed by hackers. Maxwell reportedly kept her emails on a private server, and her lawyer wrote that soon after her email address, linked to her own domain name, was published, hackers breached the host computer. Oh, wow, that sounds familiar, huh? Her own personal server, huh? That got hacked. Interesting. He did not respond to questions from the Miami Herald and its parent company, McClatchy, about how Maxwell learned that her email server had been hacked and whether she knew if hackers had accessed or removed any information from the server. That's a pretty good question, right? How do you know that you were hacked? Or was she hacked, folks? Is this more disinformation she's sprinkling in to muddy the waters again? We all know how she rolls. We understand that she doesn't just do things to do them. Look at the staged picture at the In-N-Out, the photoshopped aspect of it, the book she's reading, etc., folks. She does not just do things to do them. She is very shrewd in her decision making about perception and persona, and that all comes with being around the people she grew up around. Those are the kind of people that groomed her for her role. Cybersecurity experts said that publication of Maxwell's email address and the name of her private domain could make it easier for hackers to access her information. An email address is not like the keys to the kingdom, but it's pretty important, said Fred H. Cate, a law professor and cybersecurity expert at the University of Indiana. It could tell you where to break in. While private email servers can provide some advantages for users, such as a greater awareness of whether a third party or law enforcement is trying to access their emails, they tend to also bring greater security risks. Yeah, we've heard this one before, huh? Groundhog Day much? Companies such as Google and Microsoft have teams dedicated to monitoring email servers and making sure security protections are up to date, said Justin Kapos, a computer science and engineering professor at the New York University's Tandon School of Engineering. Oh yeah, Google and Microsoft, they're making sure everything is fine as they're going through your email, folks. I would never have a Google email account or a Microsoft email account, except for like if you're using it for like Xbox or something. I would never use a non-encrypted email address. No way. know how. These people are so devious. I don't want them knowing if I want ice cream or if I want cake. I don't want them knowing something as mundane as that, all right? I want them out of my life. If you run your own server, it's your own responsibility, and people tend to fall behind, Capo said. The December letter from Maxwell's lawyer has itself been a subject of controversy, as it was initially not placed on the court docket or provided to other parties in the legal dispute. We are glad that Judge Preska has decided to release this letter, said Christine Waltz, an attorney representing the Herald. The Miami Herald has argued in court that the documents in the original lawsuit filed in 2015 and subsequently sealed should be released to the public. Yes, it should be. It should definitely be released to the public ASAP. We should have access to that, and more so the victim should have access to everything that's in there. Because these women have been called liars and worse. So if you have documentation that proves what they're saying or corroborates what they're saying, court documentation, that needs to be released. The Herald's Perversion of Justice series, first published in November of 2018, dissected the non-prosecution agreement Epstein's legal team worked out with the Justice Department in 2008, despite nearly 3 dozen underage girls accusing Epstein of sex abuse, and helped lead federal prosecutors to bring new charges against the multimillionaire pedophile in 2019. The financier died in federal custody last August, one day after the Herald and other news outlets reported on the release of the first batch of documents from the Roberts lawsuit. The death has been classified as a suicide, allegedly. And do you think it's any coincidence, folks, that the second the Roberts documentation is going to get released, that Epstein's dead by suicide or otherwise? So what does that tell you about the powerful content of what Virginia Roberts has said and what is in these documents? It's such powerful content that Jeffrey Epstein was killed or quote-unquote suicided, and it's such powerful content that Ghislaine Maxwell is fighting tooth and nail to keep it redacted and sealed. There is something in there, folks, that they do not want us to see, and I hope, beyond hope, that Preska decides to release these documents and let the victims really prove their case. Because I'll tell you what, these victims, these survivors, I won't even call them victims at this point. These survivors are going to take their case to the public. And the public has had enough of people like Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein getting away with their crimes and thumbing their noses at the rest of us on a regular basis, and no matter how heinous the crime is. I've talked about at length here on the podcast about how I'm willing to look the other way when these bastards get elected to office and they come into office with, a very meager net worth, and by the time they leave, or the second they get out of office, they're worth millions and millions and millions of dollars. I look the other way for stuff like that because, that's just the way it goes. That's how business in Washington, D.C. is conducted for the most part. But when it comes to something like this, I don't think anyone who has an idea or a good grip on what's going on can be anything besides completely and utterly fired up about this. I mean, it makes me apoplectic. I get so mad thinking about it, that these people are still walking around, still skulking around in the dark, still living their lives however they want to live them, with the most luxury in the whole entire world. Some of these people married to NASCAR drivers, still living in buildings that were owned by Epstein, flying helicopters, whatever it may be. And meanwhile, these survivors of the reign of terror by Jeffrey Epstein and his cohorts are just trying to pick up the pieces and move on with their lives. And even still in death, Jeffrey Epstein and his associates are trying to make it hard for them to do that. Well, a good first step, folks, would be to release these 8,600 pages and let justice do its thing. Because Ghislaine Maxwell, you're on the clock. You can skulk and you can hide, but this is the year that the predator turns into the prey. All right, folks, if you'd like to contact me, you could do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. And if you would like to help support the podcast, you can do that by clicking on the GoFundMe link inside of the description box. All right, folks, I will be back tomorrow. I hope everybody has a fantastic night.